meat. Grass-fed meat, the way you raise it. Why does that matter so much?
I'll be honest. When I was first starting, I was skeptical of the grass-fed. I was like, okay, college background,
Sure.
Industrial ag. What's the big deal, right? What's the difference?
Welcome to the Experience Miracles podcast, where we help parents find hope, answers, and drug-free help to overcome your child's chronic health challenges. I'm your host, Dr. Tony Ebel, and I'll be sharing my experiences as both a dad and a doctor on every episode. I can take the latest science and neurology of healing and break it down in the most simple and relatable way possible. We'll take on the toughest topics and answer your biggest questions through interviews with other amazing parents and leading experts, leaving you with practical action steps that you can take to help your child heal and thrive. It's time to expect and experience miracles. Let's get started.
All right, everyone, if you have been listening to the podcast much at all, you know that I come from an Iowa farmer background, and so you get a lot of farmer analogies and metaphors and concepts mixed together with this neuroscience, hope-dealing, answer-giving, drug-free healthcare taking over mentality. So today's interview was a blast for me, and it will be for you too, because it's a topic we haven't tackled yet. And we brought in an expert within a field, pun intended field. We brought in another farmer. Joe Wanda from Wanda Farms is the interview you are about to listen to. So Joe is still farming. Boy, is Joe and Hannah and his incredible family still farming. They have an incredible regenerative farm here, local to, really close to where our practice and our life is in Harvard, Illinois. And they just took this, and I won't get in, usually, obviously, when we read a bio, we go into their backstory. But I was so intrigued by how Joe got to where he is with this massive operation. And let me tell you this, knowing farming, it's not easy to have a massive operation that feeds so many families healthy, grass-fed, organic, regeneratively farmed food. It's easy to have a massive operation that is built upon big machines and chemicals and fertilizers and pesticides and growth hormones pumped into your animals and antibiotics given to them. And I know that because I grew up as a farm kid in the era where it went from organic farming that you didn't have to call organic farming because you just raised food before chemicals and fertilizers and pesticides and genetically modified everything came into our existence in the name of quote unquote, feeding the world and mass feeding and driving down prices, which on the surface it can do that, but so can this option we're going to talk about with bringing it back to the communities, bringing it back to families, bringing it back to the earth as God designed it and making it regenerative. But the world shifted, as did healthcare, around the same kind of concepts where it's like, oh, we're going to live better with chemistry injected into everything, right? Wrong. And Joe will teach us that. This is an incredible story. There's incredible impact for the health of your family and action steps that comes with that. And it's been a wild run for me in my 43 going on 44 years as we release this one because again, I grew up as a farm kid where we shifted from what today would have to be called organic, but back then it was just food. And now it needs this organic label. It needs this grass-fed label. It needs this regenerative label. Those labels actually shouldn't be on there. Of course, as healthy families, we need to have those labels today to be able to choose between, craptastic, chemically laced, chronic illness-inducing food and then health and vitality and healthy, happy families inducing food. Well, Joe and his crew is bringing us so much of the latter. That's the only thing that goes on our grill and in our plates around here is Wanda Farms food. In fact, if you're really within many states within the Midwest, you're actually going to be able to learn that you can order from Joe's farm and really support this incredible man and his mission. And I guarantee by the time you get to the end of this episode, not only will you learn a lot about incredible healthy food and regenerative farming and how much it means to your family, but I think you're going to fall in love with Joe and his story and want to order from Wanda Farms. So make sure you hit the link in this one. We've got a special offer for you in that way too that they bring to the table, and they're just incredible. His story is incredible. We have a lot of fun. We share a lot of stories and we share a lot of action steps that will really help your family find your way to what true actual healthy food is and how much it matters. I know our audience, I know our Experience Miracles podcast family. You're going to love this one. Let's dig in.
So my story, humble beginnings, Hebron, Illinois.
There you go.
So my parents both were from the city of Chicago.
Okay.
And I am the fourth child.
Okay.
And
like full baby of the family, or there's more after you?
There's 6 total.
Let's go.
And so they had 3 kids, and then they were both talking. My parents are like, we got to get out of Chicago.
Okay.
We can't live here. It's not safe for our kids.
Yeah.
And so as they were pregnant with me, they moved out to Hebron, Illinois.
Wow.
And bought a little 5-acre like hobby farm. And
so that's where it started. So you were literally born.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So quickly, that was such a tiny little home they grew. Yeah. We started in, it was like sharing the bed with my sister and 5 of us in one room type thing. And they eventually went ahead and built a home on a 27-acre plot of land nearby. And that's where my mom really started to live out her dream of having a milking cow and some pigs and chickens. And
what did start? Let's
garden and
I love details. I'm going to be the annoying interviewer. So this is, as a pediatric chiropractor, we're so trained into root cause. We ask all these like detailed and granular questions clinically, and I can't get away from it. Even when I get into stories, I love the details. When you guys were on the 5-acre farm and your parents were just getting started, what components of farming and food raising did they have there first, and then did they kind of hang on to a city job and do that? Was it kind of two worlds at once until the 27 acres?
Yeah, so we moved out of that place when I would have been 6. Okay. So I don't have a ton of memories there. We had a big pond. I remember playing lots of hockey. We had a beautiful strawberry patch. Awesome. And gosh, there's not a whole lot else I can remember, to be honest. Pretty sweet tree house.
Yeah,
which got destroyed pretty quickly because it was a willow tree, so it did not last at all.
So then the 27 acres, cool.
Yeah, then they built a new home on the 27 acres, and that's really where they had the acreage to really kind of grow and do everything. And it was my mom that really loved the animal husbandry. Like, she wanted to do the livestock. My dad was totally like hands off. He had nothing to do with it. He was more focused on fruit trees, the garden. And
that's a great mix because the best farms have both. Right?
Yeah,
so if one is obsessed over here.
And my dad was the breadwinner. He had his own business repairing interiors on cars. And so he was still traveling into the city of Chicago and the suburbs doing that business. And so I still got like into the city quite frequently. I would go to work with them actually once a week. And actually my first gig was I had a shoe shine business.
Okay.
So I was actually shining shoes for car salesmen at the car dealerships. And so
what age?
I would go to
what age did you start this?
I started at 7 years old.
Goodness gracious.
And so I actually would go down to city of Chicago with my dad once a week. And we were homeschooled. We were really blessed to be able to do that. And so it was pretty cool going to Lober Motors, Mercedes dealership, and shining all these salesman shoes. And then, they'd be like, I think one time I shined Scottie Pippen shoes.
That's awesome. Well, they had the trust of your father, right? Your father built a business and built trust and provided one service. You're coming along to spend time with dad and that is so cool.
That really is what sparked my entrepreneur journey, and just kind of the ability to learn to converse with people and be willing to talk. And
that's awesome.
It was a really great experience.
Dude, I tell you, that changes the dial for me. I always thought I was an early starter. I started my first hay baling business at 14. So I'm the youngest.
Oh, really? Okay.
So I grew up 1,000, my dad, corn, soybean, about 1,000, anywhere between like 500 to 1,000 head of cattle at any time. We only had hogs for summer, 4-H, right? Take them to the fair. And so he had this 28-acre alfalfa field, and I was the youngest of 4, and he was starting to scale back a little bit, at that stage in age. And so he didn't want to keep the alfalfa going anymore because him and all my neighbors and uncles who would come over and bale it, right? This is back like actual small squares and everything else. So he was going to no longer have it. He was just going to turn it over to soybeans. And my buddy and I, my best friend, also one of my farmer friends, we saw an opportunity. And I have no idea how this landed in my head that it was an opportunity. But we went to the bank. We got our first loan. I'll never forget it. $3,000 covered the fertilizer, right? To again, different decision nowadays. We're getting into fertilizer.
Sure.
So it was the conventional way of farming.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I took my first loan at 14. It was the greatest business ever, Joe, because I had all my dad's equipment. I had the lowest overhead, right? Because he let us use all that.
Sure.
We had buddies do all the manual labor for us. My mom just made them, cheeseburgers for payment. And awesome. Every Wednesday, now I live in Bull Valley where all these fancy horse farmers are. So there was this Bull Valley-esque area. And my buddy and I would load up a fifth wheel. My grandfather had a hoop barn. We'd put them all in there. Every Wednesday afternoon after school, we'd go sell hay to horse farmers who love to overpay for good alfalfa, right? I'm telling you, brother, man, that is still the best thing I ever did those years of high school. Yeah, so how long did the shoe shining make it before you were pulled into full-time farm work? Probably not long.
I kind of went back and forth between whether I liked animals or cars.
Yeah.
And I still love both today. Cool. And, but yeah, I always loved helping my mom with chores. Okay. And so it was kind of one of those things where I could do both, you know? And we would wake up at 6 a.m, go milk the cow and do the chores. And, by the time I was like 10 or 11, I pretty much could run the show for my mom. And it was like, hey, she's going to be gone for the weekend. Joe's got it, and I would do all the feeding and take care of it all for her.
Do you know how much people listening right now do not believe the numbers, the ages we're talking about? Farm kids are just built differently, aren't they? Literally 10, 14. But that's true. They're going like, I got this.
My first boss, I would have been 16, and I started working on the neighbor's dairy farm. They had about 120 milking cows. And when I was working for him, and he was just the nicest guy ever, and he shared with me that when he was 10 and his brother was, I think, 11 or 12, his parents went to Europe for 2 weeks and left them to run the farm with like 80 cows.
That's my opinion.
And so,
my parents grow up fast. They do. And it was, when I look back on it now, I remember two things about it. One, I don't remember it even being a thing. It was just our life. It was just the way it was. I was the youngest of four, so for a while I was lost. And my parents loved to bowl. And so they would go to these like bowling tournaments for the weekend. This is such an Iowan thing. And I would just run feed 800, get up in the morning, probably 5 o'clock, whatever, before school. Or if it was gone during school, get all the chores done, go to school, go to practice, you're home by 5:30, it takes a couple hours to do chores, go to bed, do it all over again. Yeah. And it was just me. Yeah. Or cover the neighbors. They're on vacation to do it. But so the other memory I have from it is what a blessing that upbringing was, because now all the hard work to bring this mission to the world that God has called us to, I don't see it. It is hard work. I'm not trying to say it's not, but it's our daily calling that we love. Like there's chores to that too, right? And so that's definitely something I think all of our families and our kids need more of. That chores mentality, you can apply that in every direction, not just livestock and farming. Yeah, but you really can. So now you guys go and you're growing up on the farm. So this was your path forever. So you chose school. So now that's interesting, right? What I want to kind of pull that hair a little bit here, buddy, or pull that weed. Okay, bad joke. College, right? Going out and getting a degree. What were you looking to go for from that when you went off to school and chose the degree?
When I was 16, started working on that dairy farm. That definitely solidified it. That I wanted to be a farmer. And a big part of it, though, was the family I worked for. I mean, like I said, that gentleman I spoke before, I mean, he was a great person and just a good influence on me to really solidify that, yes, this is a good lifestyle and a good thing you can do. I will say a couple of the farmers I worked for in college, not so much. I think I would have turned negative about it, and I probably wouldn't be doing it. Yeah. But yeah, went off to realized, okay, the best next step is go get a degree in agriculture. And, I'm 18, didn't really know what was going to happen after there. I mean, at the time it was like, all right, find some, farm girl who's already got a family farm, marry her.
For sure.
Buy into the family business and be a part of a farm that way. Mm-hmm. That was the plan. But decided to save some money, go to McHenry County College, which was a great idea, and I'm happy I did it. And at the time when I was there, I actually met my wife, Hannah.
Awesome. I was going to ask, how'd you pull her into this farm?
So she's actually a resident here at Crystal Lake.
Yeah.
And we started kind of getting to know each other my last semester of college there.
Awesome.
And so then we kind of stayed friends, went off to college. She went her way. She went down south to Laternal, Texas.
Okay.
And I went north to University of Wisconsin River Falls.
Yeah.
And we kind of just stayed more that friends. I like you, but we weren't going to get serious because of the long distance. And then after about 3 months, we were like, okay, let's. And I asked her out. I said, I want to make this serious. And,
Perfect.
And the rest is history. I mean,
did she grow up with any farming, any ag?
No,
any desires or goals or dreams to be out in the country?
You know,
or
she loves the country.
Yeah.
She's an amazing farm wife.
Awesome.
She really is.
Nice.
And couldn't ask for a better farm girl.
That's amazing.
Really couldn't. So she came in and started helping me on the farms I was working for throughout college, and we had a blast together, and definitely solidified that like she's got the mental toughness.
I was gonna say,
and
imagine
physical ability to do this job.
Yep.
And because it's hard work physically and mentally being a farmer.
It's 100% required to be together. Yeah, for sure. That's amazing, man. What God is God. That is so. It must be these Crystal Lake girls, buddy. Must be called to the farm. That's Christina too. You know, she's at her best with the work boots on and throwing hay bales around. And I'm like, okay, all right, here we go.
Yeah, well, if I could give any piece of advice to any young man, like look for a girl that loves the Lord and wants to serve him, and you'll be happy. And that's what I did, and I'm sure happy I did it.
Ain't that the truth? That's 100% match right there, brother man. All right, so next chapter we kind of want to get into with this is really say, okay, you know, I don't think a lot of people, right, know the layers of farming and how just like the modern medical machine, how much the agricultural machine just got completely off the tracks, right, over the last couple of generations. And so, you know, your average person probably thinks of farming and they would mistakenly assume it's this natural by hand manual labor. Yours is a unique farm for now, making a comeback, right? Regenerative natural health like crazy. And so across your farming journey, where was it conventional at first, and then your parents already started to get into the regenerative and the organic? Was that college? What was the spark to go? Because you guys at Wanda Farms, being a farm kid who then, you know, I went the other direction, right? I ended up in the suburbs, right? And I love my calling with chiropractic. I get to work with my hands and serve people in that way. But it's just this incredible production done. Gosh, I don't have the words for it, brother, man. It's just done in the way that creates so much health. Like the food you guys produce is so magnificently different in its quality and in what it does for families. So I guess that's a big intro, but where did that direction come from? Because most people just know conventional, right? Which is honestly, it's the pharmaceutical industry of farming, you know? And
it started with my mom, for sure. I mean, my mom was much more holistic in her type thinking. I mean, she was definitely the weirdo homeschool mom, a lot of people would say, you know, which was, you know, at the time as a kid, you certainly felt that way. But yeah, it started with her. And I think when I got into college age, you know, it was more about like, well, mom doesn't know what she's talking about. Like, I'm going to, I'm going to listen to the experts here at the university. And so definitely, like, you know, great people I learned from there at the university, and learned a lot of great things, learned so much about the biology, about how all of our bodies work, chemistry, learned incredible things of God's design, and how it all came together. But what I did not learn, that looking back, was I learned about an industrial system on how to mass produce. The main message at college was, how do we feed the world? And that was the message. And I would sometimes push back about certain things, and it was always just kind of like, well, why would you do that? That's the old way, you know?
No way.
There was no openness about really the organic and more rotational grazing. I mean, they had a little bit of that, like, oh yeah, that's kind of for the hippies type thing.
Was their excuse? Would they shut that down with, oh, if we do that, we can't mass produce? Is that always kind of the default reason?
It was more about there would be, like, for example, we were in a class and we talked about BST.
Okay.
Gosh, now I'm trying, bovine somatotropin hormone. Yeah. And it's BST is a hormone they would give cows to produce more milk. Yeah. And it's proven the cows produce up to 5 to 10% more milk in their lifetime if they're put on this drug. And so therefore we would talk about that, and I would like ask him, like, listen, can we talk more about like the efficacy of this and like, does it have harmful effects to the milk? And I would just get shut down. It was like...
So they literally wouldn't even try and answer.
Yeah, they're like, well...
You know what that's similar to?
It's already science. It's already proven.
Yeah. Why are you asking, right? You know that's so similar to? That is every parent listening. Every might be a heck of a harsh word, but I think the math is closer to every than a few. That is like the majority of parents who go into a pediatrician's office and ask just one or two what we would consider super common sense questions, like, hey, why are we doing this? Why are we injecting these chemicals? Why are we doing antibiotics again for a viral infection? Really basic, not complex not what we know, scientific questions. And they just get shut down. They not only don't get answers, like, legitimate, thorough, informed choice answers, they just get dismissed. And so you were experiencing a lot of that just in the traditional. That's why I was asking about a question before, brother man, because I went to Iowa State, which is, egg mass production, home base, right? And so, my mom has a paper that she considers the blackmail paper. I wrote a paper in my freshman year about how genetically modified corn and soybeans are so dang good. I can't even say it. Because all I was taught was mass production, feed the world, mass production, feed the world. Yes. You're not going to have to work so hard. I watched my dad, labor away. And then so on the surface, 1819, I'm thinking this big mass production agricultural revolution is going to be the best thing ever. I wasn't into health and natural health and chiropractic yet. And so my mom still, lords that paper over me as threat. She's like, I'll release this on the PX Docs platform. Love you, mama. So I've learned since then. So they just would dismiss it. Did anybody give you their ear? Was there any professor or people there at school that would kind of like, I'll talk to Joe?
I had some great professors, and I respect every single one of them there. I really do. And I really believe that the majority of agriculture has great intent in everything they're doing. They really do think they're doing the best thing for humanity. However, they're just being misled down the wrong path, in my mind. That's exactly what's happening. So it was funny, actually. One of the professors there, he was like kind of retired and just kind of helping out. He was probably almost 80 years old. His name was Dewey. And I remember my last semester, I kind of pulled him aside. I said, this whole feed the world thing, I mean, don't you think we should just change it to like, how do we feed our community and like educate the rest of the other countries in the world to do the same? Like, it seems like they just have a lack of education. And he's like, you're right on.
Wow.
That's what we should be doing.
So to go big, you got to go small.
But then you would have these like famous speakers come in, and they, you get fill the auditorium with 500 college kids that are all, have family farms back at home they're going to go back to, or they're going to go into the industry for some big ag company.
And financially, quick, everybody listening, that's what's happened. This is the season in the era of farming. Like, if you didn't choose to keep up, there was not a market. There was not a huge market. You almost couldn't even call it a market quite yet, right? In the early stages for organic and regenerative.
Just put it in perspective. So I got my emphasis was on dairy.
Okay.
And so when I was probably like a young kid, a big dairy farm was probably about 400 or 500 cows
for sure
at the time. And then fast forward to college age, now it's like 1,000 to 1,500. Now today, that's considered small. Those are small family farms just trying to make it. Now you got to be pushing 10,000 cows minimum before you're an actual farm to economies of scale.
Yeah.
And so that's just how everything has changed. Now it went from like, hey, it used to be you needed 80 acres now you got to have 5,000.
I watched it with my dad. We had half a section, and he was good to go until those final years. And then, then he bought another 80, then we bought another 200, then we bought 300. And it wasn't about, like, he didn't want to own that much land per se. It was just in his final stage. That was just a mathematical requirement to keep up. And, so I literally, brother man, I was my dad's right-hand man where we went from. And again, for my family, we were not the holistic granola. It wasn't for health purposes. He now looks back and knows it and loves that it was, but he was the last man to spray. He was the last man to plant the Roundup Ready corn and soybeans. But that was truly because he had manual labor to walk beans and pull it out. It was once he was at a different stage of life himself, not be able to keep up as much physically, and then kids weren't there. It was so easy for the conventional world to get a hold of him, and pull him into that system. That everybody listening, and again, I know we're on a health podcast. We're talking about the traditional medical world all the time. There is no two more exactly aligned comps than Big Ag and Big Med. I mean, the problems are literally the same, man. It's wild.
Well, I mean, Big Med is so much of the medicines going into livestock production.
Dude, and they feed each other.
I mean,
profits.
Vaccines, antibiotics, the hormones, all of it.
All of it.
So, yeah, I mean, that was, so anyways, fast forward, I got out of college.
Okay.
And I jumped into a full-time role as a herd manager on a 1,400 cow dairy in southern Wisconsin.
Okay.
And great experience, got so much good understanding of Big Ag as just a whole and how it was working. Got great management experience, helped me to start learning how to manage people. I had like 5 direct reports under me that were all Mexican labor, and then we had another 15 to 20, let's say, other Mexican laborers that were more like our milking crew, which the owner managed, but he was on his way out, and so he was letting me step in, and I was one of the individuals that could speak Spanish, and so managed that for about 4 years, and I just burnt myself out. I mean, that was the reality. There was just so many other things going on that I was just burning myself out. And I want to say it was about year 2 or 3 into that journey, I heard of Joel Salatin.
Yeah, I was wondering through that.
I heard of Joel Salatin.
Who got a hold of you.
I started watching some of his YouTube videos. And the first time I heard of the word regenerative, I was like, what is this word? I just got a degree in agriculture. I never heard of this word. And so started studying up more on Joel Salatin and read a couple of his books, and it just started to click. It was like, all right, I'm at this dairy farm. I'm just like injecting cows every day with all sorts of stuff.
I'm surprised you made it another day.
Doing the BST thing every week. We had to inject. No, it was every week we had to inject half the herd. And so they would get their injection every other
corn and silage into them.
Everything was GMO. And at the time, I had the opportunity to actually buy into the farm and be a part of the ownership with the family. Wow. And we had a lot of good discussions, pre-discussions on like, okay, how can we make this work? And it just came down to values did not align.
I was going to say, it would have been much harder to unshackle from that.
Yeah. And I know, like, when I brought up an idea on, like, hey, I'm hearing, because financially it was not a great situation either.
Got it.
It's 1,400 cows. Many would consider factory farm. But
margins
financially, it was greatly stressful. And so the thought of, like, how can we get more margin and value for this product? And so I remember one day just bringing up like the fact, like, what if we started going to like a non-GMO feed? I talked to this other dairy processor. They're saying they're paying another $1.50 a pound on the hundredweight premium. And it just got shot down
Not even a chance.
And so just after, some more time of those type of conversations, I just realized this is a dead end.
Awesome.
And so my wife and I went on our own.
There you go.
So
how did that? All right, let's go to the Joel. So what did you start learning? Give everybody just a quick I know, right? Joel came to speak at chiropractic school when I was there. So I'm going to chiropractic school and I'm learning all about the nervous system and how the body works, exactly like you said. Like I've always loved biology, anatomy, and I always was blown away by God's design. But then I'm studying it, and the more you study it, the more you learn neurology and physiology and biology, the more you fall in love. I think the more the more you see the creator and you see the intelligence, you're like, there's no way that a lightning hit a amoeba, and that came out of it. So long story short, I'm falling more in love with the potential of helping people through chiropractic. But that was also my foray into natural wellness, right? I grew up with the Schwann's Man and frickin' Doritos and Casey's Pizza, right? Same, that was our kind of farming. And so anyways, Joel Salatin is coming in. Early in my career, I would become really good friends with Dr. Josh Axe, who went with Jordan Rubin and, the Kingdom and the Maker's Diet and all that. So those have been friends and mentors. They've been on the podcast with us. That's why I was so excited. You got to go check out their farm in Tennessee and Missouri.
Okay.
When we're done, I need to get you connected with Josh and Jordan and head down there and see it. What they're doing is incredible. These two are kingdom-driven men who have been blessed to absolutely do incredible things through a health and supplement business, and now they're not done. They could honestly, little diatribe here, they could put it on cruise control and be good to go. Where their obsession is right now is regenerative ag. It's absolutely like going back to the roots, to the dirt, and rebuilding from there, and then teaching others to do it. They're exactly aligned to you, my man. So, okay. So can you give us a 101 introductory, trailer to regenerative ag and why it is so different from where most conventional food is produced from?
Yeah, so the regenerative ag, it's the mindset just totally shifts from how do I mass produce something and like get the highest yield to how do I actually produce a product that has the best nutrient density to it. And so that's really kind of the mindset and focus. And that really starts with the soil. And so, when you start talking about soil health, there's all these principles that we can utilize to help improve the soil health. So that's what we've been focused on.
So it starts with the soil.
Yes. So I have always had like a little, when I was in high school, I always had that interest in like just rotational grazing and more grazing, but it was totally new. Like,
did your mom do any of it? Did you guys do any of it?
A little bit.
Okay.
A little bit. Yeah. We were horrible at it.
Because you do it.
We were horrible at it.
Yeah, it's not the easiest thing.
We didn't know what we were doing.
Yeah.
But yes, when I was at college, I took like a half a credit class. It's all they offer on like rotational grazing and like
first day nice.
It was like it was it was a fun class, but it was kind of pathetic that it's like
nutrition class at medical school. They're like, we only offered in this closet over the summer.
Yeah, but yet again, I had to go do like 12 credits of chemistry. For sure. So, anyways, that was actually probably one of my favorite classes. Looking back, we got to design like a like a rotational grazing system, and it was like, okay, what kind of fencing are you going to install?
Hey.
How big of the paddocks do you need? Okay. Like calculate the density and like how many cattle can this pasture carry? Cool. It was a lot of fun.
So you at least had to start.
Yeah. And so I always kind of had that interest. And then in 2015, actually, we bought a farm right next to my parents, along with my mom and dad. And so that was the plan all along, was I was going to just like on the side for fun, rotationally graze, like, 5-10 cows or something. Mm-hmm. And so that was the start of Wanda Farms. And then in 2017, 17, left the dairy farm. And which, by the way, I want to remind everyone, everyone in my past history that's in the big ag, like I respect and I love each one of them individuals. Yeah. And so when I'm like harshing down on big ag, it's not against any individual.
Yeah. You would, if you didn't have those incredible mentors and people in your path, you wouldn't have the contrast to be as relentless obsessed into the quality of your product.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. Cool.
So anyways, fast forward, 2018 is when we recognized like, okay, we want to do this regenerative farming, rotational grazing system. And so went ahead and started kind of direct marketing some like half cow share, quarter cow shares.
Where at? Where did you go find? Where'd you go find people?
Family and friends.
There you go.
That's where it always starts.
You go. Totally.
So
that's like the chiropractic journey. You know what, family? You're getting adjusted.
So
get on in here.
2018 was the first year we harvested our first 4 beef that were 100% grass fed.
Yeah, awesome.
And so, and just so everybody's aware, it takes 2 years from start to finish to get a grass fed only beef.
I really want to talk about meat and the difference there, which obviously comes soil to plant to what they're eating. Absolutely. So grass fed. So when I set up shop here 0708, and because Joel Salatin and all these other folks had come into my vortex, so my wife and I, starting our young family here, open up practice in Crystal Lake, we were obsessed with finding good food and grass fed. And it was literally like finding a needle in a haystack, man. So my uncle Scott, who's this bacon salesman who still calls me the hippie Cairo, oh, you want your grass fed beef? And so he had a guy, one of his salesmen on his team in Wisconsin, left the system. He was working for Monsanto and Cargill for so long, similar enough story where he was so entrenched in the system. He saw the system and he got out, and it's called Doug Nye is his name. And he got out and he started this grass fed. So I used to have to drive 2.5 hours north to go pick up my half cow and get started with my family. So as you guys started to get going and word got out, it's been the greatest blessing for our family. And then I have a family chiropractic practice. We tell people the truth real early, right? We're like, hey, we're going to change your nervous system. But it's called Premier Wellness, right? We get into nutrition, we get into these sort of things for our families. And so then I felt like I was like causing more stress for families because I'm telling them they really needed to shift their meat, which is where I'd like to take you next. Yeah. And then them finding it was hard, you know? So I was like stressing myself. I'm causing them stress. They know about conventional meat now and how bad it is, but they're struggling to find it. So you guys, the way you serve our community and the scale and the size of your operation now, I know Father's Day is coming up and those tomahawks, you're going to have to hire armed guards, keep those tomahawks at play, brother man. You know, forget the coyotes. It's going to be these dads coming out there trying to get a hold of those tomahawks. So what took off? Okay, actually, let me ask 2 questions. Meat, grass-fed meat, the way you raise it, why does that matter so much? I know people are like, organic strawberries, yes, and everything else, but if you're going to start anywhere, everybody listening, you got to clean up your meat.
Sure.
Why does that matter so much?
So, I'll be honest, when I was first starting, I was skeptical of the grass-fed. Okay. I was like, okay, like, you know, college background, industrial ag, what's the big deal, right? What's the difference? You see the price tag is twice as much, and it's like, why?
Harder to cook.
Why? But it's really simple. It goes back to the nutrient density when we talked about that. Like, you start studying the science behind it, and it's clear grass-fed beef has so much more nutrients in it when you look at it on a per ounce basis. And we're talking about healthier fats, more vitamins, antioxidants, just so many things. It's jam-packed. And it goes back to the slow grow process the way God intended it. Because the reality is I could do a grain-fed beef in half the amount of time. And sure, we can get that animal to process a lot faster. We can crank out more. We can be more profitable. And at the end of the day, it is better to do it that way from an economic standpoint. But what is the other cost? We don't talk about the other costs because we have a lot of other costs associated with our health, environmental, and also not to account the animal welfare aspect, because we start packing these animals into an unhealthy environment where they're in a feedlot. You know, that's
why they get pumped full of so many stickers.
Yeah, there's disease all over. Exactly. They have to. It's kind of funny, actually, if I can share a little story. This past weekend, it was actually kind of a tough Saturday afternoon because we actually had a cow die out of the blue. My farm manager went out there Saturday morning, moved the cattle to the next paddock. Everything was great. And then I was just finished up with a farmer's market training a guy out in Winnetka. And just leaving the market, he calls me, and I could just tell something was wrong in his voice. And he's like, dude, there's a cow dead. And I was just moving them to their next paddock. And he's discouraged. He's like, this has been a rough day. Of course, the other worker didn't show up to work. And so it was just a rough day, and going out there and seeing that, it's like, man, this is what I dealt with on a daily basis when I was at this dairy farm for 1,400 cows.
Just a rendering truck.
And
rendering truck picks up dead animals.
Yes, the dead cow truck. Yeah. That's what we called it. And I had to pick up the phone and call that guy.
Jeez.
And it was like, I haven't called this guy in over 5 years.
Well, ain't that a telling? That's a good.
And it was tough. It was like, gosh, it brought back so many horrible feelings.
But big picture, 5 years.
And honestly, that's what sold me on going regenerative rotational grazing, is because when I was in it, it's hard. It's mentally difficult when you see cows dying day after day after day, and you're just shooting up with drugs and all that, and you're trying to do the best thing to keep them alive.
Yeah.
And that's why I started looking into Joel Salatin.
So you first and foremost, the food. So let's go to the negative. There's a list. I think you had 3. You might have had 4. The costs. The cost of just mass producing, shoving them on corn, shoving them into that. You were saying we don't think of the cost that immediately are transferred to the healthcare system.
Sure.
You could actually even take that further, right? The cost of now kids are sick all the time. They're not in school. That hurts their education, their growth. The cost of somebody sick all the time, they're not at work. That literally hurts our economy from lost production. So we're getting hit from both ends. The healthcare system is erupted, the lack of productivity.
Yeah.
Then you've got environment, massive issue to mass produce, crushing the environment. And third layer, the animals, the animal welfare. And so when you shift to regenerative, you literally improve all 3 of those massively important, big categories get better with regenerative.
Absolutely.
Wow,
absolutely.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, the health, it's really interesting to throw out a fact that about 100 years ago, about 40% of our income went towards food expense. And then healthcare, it was less than 5%. Today, it's about 15% of our income goes towards food, and about 50% of that time we're eating out, right? And then about over 15% is towards healthcare.
And
so it's flip-flopped.
Dude,
I mean, what's going on? We totally flip-flopped. The cost is you're not really saving at the end of the day.
We're that's a half truth in terms of the terms we're all been told to use. That's not healthcare, that's sick care. All of those costs are going to sick care. Healthcare. Now, that's what's crazy. People are like, oh, how does Well-Rooted, which is a natural holistic place that, serves our families here, how did PwC, you guys, one of the toughest things that actually we wish were different, we're not able to actually accept insurance and deal with insurance because insurance isn't health insurance. It's sick insurance. So it doesn't cover us who restore and regenerate. We're in regenerative chiropractic, truth be told. You know what I mean? Like, we don't do the healing. Yeah. We don't do the treating. God does that, right? We literally, kids are designed to be healthy. What happens is this stress, this birth trauma, these toxins, this inflammation gets in their body. It gets into sympathetic dominance. We make the adjustment to hit reset, to hit restore, to regenerate the function of their nervous system. And they're designed to heal. So when you move that interference out of the way, they move towards health. When you remove toxic chemicals out of your food and you put good food in, you move towards health. Healing happens. It's pre-programmed that way, right? Whether you're an animal or a human. And so we could completely, literally flip the system upside down, actually save cajillions of dollars by shifting entirely to this way of raising our food. And it's doable, isn't it, in each community?
Yeah. So have you heard of Will Harris? From Williams Pasture? Yeah. And so you talk about another individual who's become a mentor to me in this journey. I read his book about a year ago and definitely recommend anyone to read it. But he's gotten asked this question on like Joe Rogan's podcast and some other ones. Like, okay, is this regenerative farming model scalable? Yeah. Come on, let's be real. How are we going to feed the world with that? And that's not the right question to be asking. And Will Harris's response is, it's not, is it scalable? Is it repeatable? And it is repeatable. And it goes back to that whole thought process on how do we educate community or individual farmers to feed their community rather than how do we take responsibility of feeding the whole world. Like that's not our responsibility. So
does the community, last questions, man, we'll do a little rapid fire to send this thing home, and oh my gosh, we got to have you back and do a round 2. This is such an important conversation, and it's also so sticky. So from the beginning, I think somewhere in the intro thing that we have with the podcast, I am very clear from episode number 1 for these folks that I am an equal mix, that God made me 50% Iowa farm boy and 50% neuroscience health nerd. So they are very used to farmer stories on this podcast. All right, buddy? So I get excited for everybody somebody I'm going to interview, but I'm not churching this up at all. I could not wait for you to come in and have a chat, because this is my thing here. Anyways, so let's go to some stuff to bring it into action. So, one, for a family, living in their community, how can they access this food? And then part two of that question, I know our audience. I kind of gave you a heads up before we started recording. I know our audience. These moms, these dads, they're your mom, they're your dad, they're Joe and they're Hannah, they're action takers. I would not be surprised if this episode creates a whole lot of homesteaders and a whole lot of helpers. And maybe that's all it is. Maybe you just need help at the farm. So what are action steps? Two parts. What is the easy action step in terms of going out and getting the right food and getting the right places for a family? Yeah. And then let's say it, brother man, let's say they're called to more. Where would you send them?
Yeah, so if you're an individual or family that lives here in the Midwest and you're looking for a farm that you want to buy regenerative, clean meats from or eggs, definitely check us out at wandafarms.com. We are happy to ship you out any of our food to your home for easy home delivery. If you live really close to us in Harvard, Illinois, or within an hour, just drive on out to the farm and grab your order here.
Real quick, let me sneak in my commercial. I have to. And I am choosy. So for 20 years, I grew up eating corn-fed, silage, antibiotic-laced, cattle, right, and food. And so if there's anybody on earth who can taste the difference, actually now even at scale, and I've also now been, eating organic and eating grass-fed and eating regenerative for a long time. I'm not saying this because you're sitting across from me, brother. It is such a difference at Wanda Farms. When we found it, and we've always got it through the office and that, it's just it's at a whole nother level. And I think it's also just it's who you guys are, it's what you're called to and how you do life and take care of it. And then it's all the science, it's all the nutrients, and it's everything else. So yes, everybody locally and even in the stratosphere of the Midwest, get Wanda Farms shipped to you.
Yeah.
And we're putting links in there, and we're putting I know your crew has a cool code that they're going to get connected to you to make it easy on the first purchase. We're going to put that in the show notes. Make that happen.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
So what about the ones who want to move out of the city, broski, and are just ready to get into it?
Well, I tell you what, I'm trying to hire a farm hand right now. So definitely check out our careers page on the website, because we are always looking for good help, whether that be maybe on the farm with the animals, but it might also just be, I need a market representative, someone to go out to the farmers markets and be an ambassador for Wanda Farms. Awesome. So definitely check us out there if you just want to get some experience and see what it's all about. And maybe that's kind of your path, the start of your path to being a farmer yourself.
I was going to say, so is that the best thing to, if that is possibly their path to even just start to part-time it and raise some of their own food?
Yeah.
It's the books, the documentaries, the online research, the YouTube is awesome, but going out, you got to go.
You got to take action. Cool. I'm sorry, but read the books, watch the videos. That's all great, but at some point, you got to take the next step and you got to jump in. And maybe that start if you have the ability to start on your own and buy a 5-acre farm or whatever and do it on your own. By all means, you should do that. And we want my personal mission is to see more farmers. We have less than 1% of our nation as farmers right now. Yeah. That number has got to increase by the end of my lifetime.
Yeah, speaking of sustainable and regenerative, literally on the nose, that number is not sustainable. It's
absolutely
really not. And you know what? I'll close this down with this. I have taken every bit of my farmer upbringing that I can into my career as chiropractic. We now, thankfully, I joke. I can't believe I said this yet. I joke. I now live pretty much just on an Instagram farm, Joe. We've got our goats and our chickens and the mini donkeys. Those are my favorite animal on earth. But it's, I'm rocking and rolling through chiropractic. But the truth is, there is the food component of this. There's the health component of this. And then there's when you live in the country and you get up in the morning and you do chores, and before bed you do chores, and you know where your food comes from as a family, and you prepare it as a family, and you pray over it as a family, and you thank God for it as it blesses your bodies as a family. Our kids, I'm struggling for the word to sum this all up that I'm trying to say in closing. Our kids and future generations need farmer values, characters, principles. They can really change the world. If food can change the world, getting your nervous system taken care of can change your family, but it's really principles and values that can change a family in the best of ways. And when you get out and you get on the farm and that's all your kids know, we're so blessed, dude. We grew up with this. Like, how nuts is that, right?
Yeah,
this is just
absolutely.
us in that way.
Yeah.
It'll change. It'll transform work ethic, humility, everything that I think this world needs in a pretty high dose. Okay, last question, overtime. What animal do you own that you wish you didn't?
Oh, gosh.
Like, if you could just, don't tell your wife. We won't even play this part for her. Okay, it could be her favorite.
Probably the broiler chicken. I mean, we raise chickens because my wife loves white meat. She's more of the chicken eater than I am. If it was me, it'd just be beef every night. But and not that so much that we raise them just for her. It's more the fact that it's probably our most it's the protein product that's driving the farm and profitability at the end of the day. So it's a complementary animal with the cattle on the farm, and we can raise them both on the same amount of land, and it's a win-win situation. And right now, cattle markets are just nuts right now, and in the reality, it's more of a hobby than anything.
That now I know you are officially, firmly, really a farmer. Speaking about the last story, and these guys can probably get, but my Uncle Scott, when I moved out here to that 20 acres, and we just started messing around a little bit, he goes, "Well, remember, you're not a real farmer until you get a check from the government." He's so sarcastic. I was like, he goes, "You losing money yet?" He goes, "Because if you're losing," he goes, "until you lose enough money, you're not really a farmer." And I thought, oh man, that is the truest joke that anybody.
Oh yes. If you're looking to get rich, I mean, this is what I tell everyone that comes to work on the farm: do not come here looking to make a good, healthy income. This is not the place for you. This is a lifestyle. You
know what though, dude? If anybody's and again, I mean it, we're just kind of chatting. Like, if anybody's gonna figure this out in the best of ways, it's you and Hannah. I do think you continue to tap into your business mind and other sort of people too. No, not to making software and doing everything else, but I just feel like it's so dang needed for families. There's got to be even more growth and profit potential for you guys. I'd love to. We should just all go to dinner one time and just the more God made me this. He gave us, my wife and I, just this crazy get after our brain. I wonder if we knew even more about it. I don't know. I wonder if we could surf. I wonder if we could help in any way. I'd love to try it.
Yeah.
All right, brother, man.